firefight. It took me about 2.5 years to recuperate, enough that I could go back to work. But I did. I survived. I went back to work. Through Morrison Knudsen and EG&G and Bechtel and Page and Page and other construction outfits at the time. Anyway, at Area 51, they were testing all kinds of very peculiar spacecraft. I think you're also, how many people here, for instance, are familiar with Bob Lazar's story? Good. That's a good group indeed. I'd suggest more of you buy his or obtain his tape or borrow his tape and read some of the publications. He was a physicist who worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory at Area 51, trying to decipher what was the propulsion factor of basically these alien spacecraft, these discs and other kinds of type of craft. So, but there's another thing I want to talk to you about other than all this stuff about deep underground military basing that might be effective. We're all basically here as kind of like a captive audience, except that we're all worried about the strange activity of our federal government. I'm very worried about it. They've stonewalled senators. They've lied to the public. They refuse to tell the truth in regards to the alien matters. I can go on and on. That the list is it would take longer than there are days here, let alone minutes. So I can tell you that, for in all respects, I'm rather disgruntled that since I used to be a rather high-ranking worker in our federal government structure, I'm very disappointed in the activities of our federal government, very worried. For instance, to run by we're not being told anything close to the truth. I believe our government officials have sold us down the drain, lock, stock, and barrel. And by the way, up until several weeks ago, I was employed in the United States government with a Rhyolite 38 clearance factor, one of the highest in the world. Excuse me, questions later.
Microphone, we can't hear you.
Can't hear me? Okay. Well, anyway, this microphone is, I'm a tall person, this microphone doesn't get up any further and it's kind of hurting me. Anyway, another thing about Strategic Defense Initiative. I believe it's there to prevent alien attack upon planet Earth. It has nothing to do with the Cold War. As we have seen, the Cold War was a total farce. And it was only a toy, an implement toy, to garner billions and trillions of dollars from good, loving, tax-paying citizens like I am and you are. For what? I don't mind a defense initiative against attack from, if it be from a real threat. But I sure hate to be lied to about there being this kind of communism and that kind of communism. And when we all find out the whole thing has been planned lock, stock, and barrel for the last 75 years by an intergovernmental group, I guess then we kind of know which side the bread is buttered on. Anyway, here's another piece of information for you folks. The DEA, ATF, Drug Enforcement Agency, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, these agencies rely upon stealth tactical weaponry for as much as 40% of its operations and budget. Remember, this is in 1993. The figures have gone up considerably since. The United Nations used American stealth aircraft for over 28% of its collective worldwide operations from 1990 to 1992, and that's taken for the Center for Strategic Studies and the United Nations Report 392. Yeah, I would appreciate that, because I'm having to bend over here and it really hurts. Oh, thank you very much. The Guardians of Stealth. There are over 3 distinct classifications of special police used to guard one of our most well-kept secrets. Number 1, this is the most disturbing of all. The MJTF, and that, by the way, that stands for Military Joint Tactical Force, otherwise known as the Black Berets. Some people call them the Delta Force, and there are other names for it. It's a multinational tactical force primarily used to guard the various stealth aircraft worldwide. And by the way, see the picture over here on the table? You might come over there and look at it. After the talk, you might do that, or during the break. You'll find out
planned as underground prison camps and slave labor factories for the New World Order. New World Order, by the way, is getting, and I'm probably the only person ever talking about this, the New World Order is taking, and the United Nations is taking its orders from, believe it or not, these more powerful outer space alien entities. We might call them the large grays or the small grays. Sinister forces indeed. And you might want to say, well, gee, how come we don't see more of this kind of thing? Well, you can just imagine. If you're only being told 5% or less of the truth, that isn't very much to go on. That's one thing. Another thing is you don't find very many people coming up here and letting you have hands-on experience. I'm going to try and do this to you. However, I do ask you to go out and do your homework and keep doing it. Don't necessarily believe in what I'm saying, but get out there and talk to people. Whether it's just a couple of neighbors or friends or something, get out there and talk. Because one will tell two and two will tell four, and then pretty soon you have a whole room full of people that are in the know. And then from there, wonders can work. Other than that, as far as changing the black budget and these clandestine programs, public opinion is only going to be that. Going to do that, and it's going to take millions of us, but we have to be informed, and to do that we have to be doing what we're doing now, gathering and talking. And of course, most of us are adults and can weed out fact from fiction. Most of us are responsible adults and know the difference between fact and fiction and how to use it or how to abuse it. And so we therefore have to continue to keep studying and keep talking. If there's just me out there, and believe it or not, there aren't very many people like myself out there talking. I've given over 30 talks in the United States, Canada, Japan, went over to England, went into Japan kind of illegal, came back the same weekend. They flew me in and out, but gave a talk to a number of their execs, and they were very interested indeed. Now, if this was all a bunch of poppycock and hooey and poo-poo, I wouldn't be listened to, be given an audience by these people, but evidently I have. But 13 attempts on my life since the first of this year. There's a number of you ladies present, so I won't gore you out, but Al has seen some of the wounds, and there's a few other people that have been to a few of my other lectures, and they can attest that I have been shot. I've been run off the road, I've been pushed off the road, I've been mostly shot at, and that kind of thing like that. But been in hand-to-hand combat with some of these people, and once again, I'm not in the best of shape anymore, but I still know how to handle myself. And I'm just about ready to wrap things up here, but just basically wanted to give you an overview of what's happening. And if we have any questions, we can start asking a few questions. Okay, here's a gentleman way over here. Would you please speak up loud? Yes, I was involved in in 1979, in August, late August of 1979. I was involved working through Los Alamos Laboratories at Dulce, New Mexico, and what's now known as the Alien-Human War. 66 Secret Service agents, government workers, geologists, and the like. I almost bit the dust. I could have been number 67. Lost their lives that day because the government lied and knew full well what was underneath. And what we'd done is, out in the desert there, we had drilled in a period of a couple of days, we drilled 4 these holes that went down several thousand feet, and one of these holes kept bringing up dirty dust and putrefying odors and broken off machine bits and other kinds of things like that. Boring machines as well as lasers came up damaged. And of course, there was a probe that was sent down, and that came up totally missing. And so people were sent down there, and I was one of the people. And when I got down there, of course, the odor was, and remember, I was in a spacesuit type environment. All I had was a small tool belt with special sensors, a small rock hammer, and a rucksack for mineral specimens and other kinds of things like that. And I had my little pistol. And being an engineer, didn't have time to carry a big hunk of pistol like most of these Green Berets carry, stuff like that, black berets. I carried a little Walther PPK with a 9-shot clip. As soon as I got down this hole, standing about from me to this gentleman over here in the front row, about 10 or so feet away, 7 feet away, something like that, was one of these 7-foot-tall stinking alien guys, and I didn't waste any time. I said, I'm not fiddling with you guys, and boom, away you go. And I was one of the rare few that had been allured that this may or may not occur, so basically was given ET training, but a lot of these other people weren't. And we were, in fact, it was asked, are there aliens in the area? And of course, the big question was no. And that was a big lie. And of course, 66 people died that day. I have a big hole in my chest. I lost my lung was literally burnt out of me. My fingers burnt off of me. My toenails burnt off of me. My skin was, I was in radiation isolation therapy for 400 plus days. My bones were vitrified or burnt. I was cooked. I managed to survive. They're telling you something about it today. But other than that, I'm the only talking survivor. There are only 2 other survivors, and they're in nursing homes up in Canada. And Canada refuses to allow the United States officials to talk to them. They're in very bad shape indeed. One of them can't talk, and the other one doesn't want to. So they're regarded as Canadian heroes, and so they're being kept by Canada. Okay, this fellow over here. Speak up loud.
Okay, are there any bases, ground bases?
Actually, yes, there's several. In fact, as I was coming to this talk, I was supposed to be here by plane, but there was a subsequent foul-up. Anyway, I drove all the way and did it in one day. But as I was coming over up near Cheyenne, I noticed the military, Air Force and the Army are building a so-called new, in quote, boot camp, prison camp, right up in Cheyenne, brand new. And I was here 3 months ago, that wasn't there. So it's something brand new. In Colorado, yes, there's about 4 underground bases, one being at Denver International Air Base. I call it Air Base, and Spaceport, or whatever you want to call it. Denver International Airport. No wonder your luggage gets lost. There are 8 levels underneath the airport, tarmac there, end quote tarmac or cement mac. And so those bags could be there for a damn long time. Why, just imagine if this was instantly turned to agate 30 or more million years ago, those bags could very well be the same way. So yeah, there's a number of them, and I wish I had a map with me. In fact, in subsequent talks, I'll have a map, which will be put on the overhead. In fact, my next talk, I plan to have just that. I had planned to bring a map here and had all the latitudes and longitudes of all the bases, and I can't do that. That would be a nice jail sentence for me, so I didn't bring it. So. But other than that, I'll have that all researched for you. Yes, this woman. Yes, as far as there being an inner Earth, a hollow Earth or anything like this, no, I've never run into anything like that. However, Al Bielek has been on these tunnel trains at the better part of Mach 2, going from coast to coast in an hour and a half, faster than any jet plane that we got, including the SST, or thereabouts, the same rapid speed. But I helped build a lot of these tunnels, and all of the underground mountain or military bases are connected, all of them, all 131 of them. They're connected both by road, not a big freeway under there, but it's at least a 2 to a 4 lane road, rather narrow lanes, but they're there, and they're also high-speed magneto-leviton train tunnels. Yes, this lady over here. Stand up and speak up, please. What levels of military personnel know about this? Most of the levels of military know about this, especially the higher levels, higher officer levels. The enlisted, I'm sure, don't, or is basically kept in the dark like we are, end quote, we are. So, this fellow right here with the hat on. Well, there's 131 of them in the United States, 127 of them in the lower 48. There's some in Canada, I'm not counting those. And some in northern Mexico, I'm not counting those either. They average about 4¼ cubic miles hollowed out underground, an average depth of 5,700 feet underground. Average cost $17 to $31 billion each. They employ anywhere from 1,800 to 10,000 people. And some very large ones now being built in Sweden, one of which is repudiated to be 30 cubic miles. It'll take 5 years to build that one at a cost of about $2 trillion. And that's all being supplied by the United Nations. Yes. Anybody over here? No. This gentleman. Speak up, please. Okay, you want to know exact locations of all these? Well, for where all of your Army, Marine Corps, Navy, and Air Force bases are, they're with all this present, not the ones closed down. And by the way, the closed down bases are now being used for gasoline storage and equipment storage and these kind of things. So they're not really closed down yet. Boot camps, end quote, boot camps and all this kind of stuff. So-called prisoner camps and these kind of things. Right now our police, for instance, are are being trained by the Air Force and the Army intelligence in martial law research, as they call it. How dare they call that by that name? So where these are, they're where every one of these strategic bases are now. In Colorado, in around Denver, there's 3 of them, and they're fairly small. Some of these bases are only maybe 2,000 to 3,000 feet in depth. Some of them were built a long time ago, back 35, 40 years ago, and they're only maybe 500 feet, and they're mostly for equipment storage. Denver, and then there's Fort Collins. There's also Colorado Springs area has a number of them. By the way, Colorado Springs is kind of a famous area. Nikola Tesla's laboratories were in Colorado Springs, and need I say more? I'll leave that up to Al Bielek. As far as Nellis Air Force Base, there's 9 underground mountain bases in Nellis Air Force Base. That's in Nevada. It's north of Las Vegas. There's going to be a UFO show and conference in Mesquite here later on this month, and that's up very close to, in quote, Area 51. That whole area, by the way, the state of Nevada is 81% in quote, managed or owned by the federal government. Land is either restricted or run by the federal government. That's why there's groups rising as we speak, dealing with the problem very vociferously, and senators are now getting involved. So evidently waking up is occurring. Yes, this gentleman over here. Speak up, please. Okay. Yes, they are. The gentleman asked, are these tunnels connected to large caverns? Yes, these large bases are basically like this Coliseum. Everything's underground. Everything's a city underground. Most of these bases both have military bases, and they have all the accoutrements of life. Remember, each one of these costs quite a bundle of dough, and some of it in our tax money, but most of it in clandestine approaches, and that's definitely undermining the country. Yes. Well, some of them have a difficulty in understanding our language. It's too slow to them. If you've heard whale songs or bird chirpings at high speed, it's about what these aliens sound like audibly to us, so it's a bunch of gibberish. Yes, they've slowly actually broken down. There's 11 prototypes or 11 civilizations of aliens visiting this planet all the time, all of which are known by the U.S. military, 9 of which are not very good indeed. They're pretty bad news. 2 of which are benevolent, but the benevolent ones have supposedly left. They have their own little war of sorts, especially the Pleiadian groups and whatnot like that, of which Val Thor was repudiated to be a Venusian, but other people will alert he looks more like a Pleiadian. He looks normal human, except he's got 6 fingers and toes. He's got one oversized lung. He's got 2 hearts. He's got all kinds of weird stuff. Bones are bigger. Yep. The man asked, do I tie in the alien agenda to the New World Order? Yes, sir, 100%. I can elaborate briefly. The New World Order right now basically is dismantling countries, governments, telling governments not to war with each other anymore, basically, so that looks good on the outside. They're taking their orders directly from the aliens who've got their own timetable. They want the one world order because they want the planet for themselves. Of course, you've often heard of the term Global 2000, and that's a supposed sinister plot, or has been a group of sinister plots to produce biological weaponry to reduce or thin out the so-called ethnic cleanse the population of the planet by 5/6, or roughly 5 of 6 billion people, enslaving the rest to work willy-nilly with the so-called people of the New World Order. Now, another peculiar thing is the alien agenda is not really well believed nor understood by a lot of these one-worlders. They don't believe it. They think they've been singled out for their own end of glory, and what they don't know is they're just another human being, and according to the negative or bad aliens, they're just another, we're considered bags of food to them. They don't eat us like we think of a cannibal eating a hunk of meat, but they use our glandular secretions as part of their food base, our blood and our glandular secretions like adrenochrome and other kinds of things like this. And in fact, the land use control has figured out ways that we can combat this and all this kind of thing like that. It might be where these new designer diseases like AIDS and Ebola and hantavirus and all these kinds of things have come up out of nowhere, and these diseases, in quote, almost have a mind of their own. Yes, this lady here. Okay, lady asked, is the tunnel building having an effect with earthquakes? Yes, it could very easily be, although got to remember a lot of these underground bases are constantly being repaired, and so a lot of people have to be hired. As far as the U.S. government, second part of her question was, is the U.S. government modifying our weather? Yes, that's an affirmative. And we have, the U.S. government's been working with the Russians for at least since 1972 and maybe as early as 1966 on weather modification. And it's a well-known fact, and it's well employed. And by the way, they can literally weather modify a hurricane or a tornado out of existence. And the reason they don't do it is pretty obvious. And right, or they could actually send a plane inside of a hurricane, for instance, that would blow off an atmospheric bomb or a shockwave bomb in the eye of the thing. It would completely dissipate. Well, they don't do this, of course, and there's probably other reasons for that. See which way it goes, or what kind of havoc, and how we can study the havoc, and we go from there. This fellow way in the back in the black. How do we learn more about our general topic? Well, there's this particular fellow, his name is Richard Souter, PhD, wrote a book recently, Underground Bases and Tunnels, What is the Government Trying to Hide? That is one book. Then we have here's a popular science article, Secret Air Base. The government doesn't want you to know that Groom Lake, supposedly Groom Lake doesn't exist. Well, I guess if it doesn't exist, then me talking about it, I guess I can't be arrested or anything. I'm just full of poppycock here. Well, the editor, one of the editors of Popular Science that put this article out is now in federal prison. Then there's a book that called Stealth Fighter Pilot. These books are available. I got this one at Dalton's. This one actually was sent to me by the publisher. I did some test piloting, and the only thing I test piloted was would run the aircraft back and forth on the runway, the special runways they built at Groom Lake. Here's a picture of me right, in uniform. And I can go on. And these publications are out now, and they're available. Yes, this lady over here. I can't hear you. What? Okay. Okay, that's kind of a mixed bag question there. She asks, with martial law being called, will precious metals and all these kinds of things. First of all, hoarding anything will be outlawed. If you hoard food, have a radio, any way of communicating, stash gasoline, these kind of things, you would just be rounded up, and that'll be the end of you. Martial law is martial law. Martial law is dictatorship of the worst form, or one of the worst forms. And her other part of the question, if I got it right, was when's the alien takeover? Well, the alien takeover right now is, and probably will be for probably the next 20, maybe 30, 40 years, will be basically in the background. The idea is to get the one world beast-like government order in place, and to thin out the population of the planet. And then, of course, then all heck will break loose from then on. And whether it is, I don't often mix Bible and talk, but some people have alerted, well, this is already mentioned in the Bible, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. Well, that may be, but all I can tell you is I've been face to face with one of these sinister characters, or a couple of them, saying the least, and most people would, just the shock of them seeing such a thing would cause them to not be in very healthy frame of mind, as physical as well as mental. This man here in the blue coat. Well, it's a combination. What technology is used to build these underground bases? Well, we have lasers that can drill out, or basically deflagrate or melt out a tunnel 7 miles a day. And that tunnel is 28 feet wide, 28 feet high. You've been told about drilling and boring machines in a very slow, quarter of a mile a day. Most of that went out in World War II. Most of that's all World War I or World War II era materials. And once again, you've been badly lied to. I can hardly believe, first of all, I've worked on public engineering projects, and we do better in grinding up road beds and laying them down at the rate of 4 miles a day, and supposedly that doesn't exist. Well, I worked on one in the state of Oregon just a few months ago, and we built a tunnel for sewage tunnel and whatnot like that. It wasn't very big. It was about 6 feet across, and I drilled right through solid rock, right to base of under one of the hills in Portland for their new light rail. Did that in 2 days. But it was a small, complex tunnel. It was big enough for a man to crawl through and inspect. I was one of the people that inspected, so yeah. What technology? A lot of this is alien technology, readapted for our own use, but a lot of it's our own ingenuity too. So you can bet, how can you tell alien technology? Well, anything that's just absolutely outlandish, like taking a oxyacetylene welding torch and trying to cut into this metal and getting nowhere, obviously would be metals research, aircraft research and the like, and different tools and products, which things that are many times the hardness of diamond, or known hardened substances like boron. Obviously, that's nothing that we came up with on our own. What we could have over a several hundred-year period. But you've got to remember, too, that the military technology is outstripping the public sector technology at the rate of 44 to 45 years of technology for every calendar year, every 12-month calendar year here. So every year going by this time in 1996, the military technology will be roughly 45 years more advanced than where we are today. So it's quite possible that way back in 1943, the U.S. Navy not only caused the ship to disappear, it literally disappeared and reappeared. Basically, military technology right now is about 1,200 years more advanced than public state technology. And computer technology right now, it's off the scale, I can't tell you. It's just right now, and employing just in black jet and stealth aircraft, the new computers are so completely advanced that we couldn't get them in the public sector for maybe another 40 or 50 years. Yes, this lady here. Well, the lady asked with the slave labor camps, the old, the infirm, the handicapped, are they going to will there be executions? You can bet your bottom dollar there actually will be these things. I wish I knew more, but I don't. I've had my own agenda to kind of keep up and talk about. But other than that, yes, I would imagine so. If you look at all the 39 prison camps that are presently built, and they're called boot camps, by the way. And of course, these new trains that they have that have 143 shackle placements per train, they're a scary thing indeed. You know what they're called? They're called United Nations Prisoner Transfer Cars. Oh, that's an appropriate name, I guess. Well, we got to wrap it up here. They're telling me it's time. I'll take one more question. This lady over here. Don't brainwash. They don't brainwash you. How do they brainwash 18,000 people that are working? Well, you sign this little piece of paper saying you work, you go to prison for the rest of your days. Or you're not going to be taking home a paycheck of about anywhere from $4,000 to $40,000 per month, depending upon your position. $40,000 a month is a lot of petunias. Okay, well, I got to wrap it up here, folks. So I'll be over in Al Bielig's booth. I think it's over in booth number 125. I could take other questions there and let you take a look at artifacts. And once again on these artifacts, in a very few minutes, don't handle them, just look at them. Thank you very much.